pillow, another pillow. What I'm going to do is set them down, but not in a straight line. I want to have one pillow, just like I was throwing closed shoulder. And I'm going to keep my pillows about, so if I'm standing shoulder width apart, pillows just on the outside of my feet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the inside of the pillow for both feet. And now what I've done is I've created a little bit of a wedge so that I can feel what it would like to actually use the instep of my feet to push off of. Because it's a different feeling. If you're flat-footed, if you're driving from flat feet, it's really easy to roll to that outside forefoot of your plant foot. It's really easy to try to drive off your heel of your back foot. This sort of forces you into an athletic stance. So, if I'm going to be looking at what my motion is in the backswing, I never want to be back over my back foot. It's gonna throw my kilter off. My goose is cooked from the start if I get back here. If I'm reaching back too far, I know that I'm never gonna correct it. So let's just, under no circumstances, be leaning our weight over our back knee. So their lateral movement is just this. I just want to be instep to instep. Now, since my feet are not in line with each other, my lateral movement on its own, it isn't just transferring weight from one leg to the other in a linear way because my feet aren't aligned. So if you're looking at me this way, I need to be moving back and forth along the line that I'm going to throw on and bring my disc into. In fact, let's not even really think about the line we're going to throw on. Let's just think about if I'm bringing this back and I'm bringing it in, I want this linear motion, which is coming back to my knee and back into here. I want that to be the direction that my motion is locking into. Now, there's a huge amount of latitude kind of given to how this happens. There's a really standard way that your backswing can happen. It's probably the easiest way. And that's just to rock back, weight into your back foot, and then bringing it back. Okay, so this is just the rocking motion. And when I hit into my instep, that's where this sort of hip bump thing that I've joked about a little bit, the salsa dancer. But when I come in, I want my front leg to be locked up against my hip. So that little bone moving into the hip flexor, when I come in, that creates a lock so that my hip can't flex anymore. I've created then a constraint that my body can no longer bend past. If I just use muscle to try to stop myself, it's harder for no big extra reason. So let's just say, hey, I know that my hip locks out when it gets to this point. So when I hit it, it's like, boom, I'm stuck there. I always say boom, stupid. Okay, so I'm now finding that spot where my hip locks into place. So that's one sort of the easy way to generate your backswing momentum. That's, now we're just talking linear, meaning just my weight coming back and forward. Now that's just meaning on a line. My momentum is on a line. I'm not even yet talking about rotating, because that's another part that's really important that we got to get to. Okay. The second way would be the way that Will Schuster talks about in his standstill video, or his improving drive technique video. And I don't know that he really explains it per se, but he shows it really well. In one of the shots, he leans way back, slowly over his back foot, and then it's just this movement of coming forward and into the same position, but it's a little more of a whip, and he uses his knee a little more to drive it through, and it creates a little more of a whip-like motion, so that when he comes back, it's kind of like more like he's preparing a karate chop or something. He's going, oh, boom, okay? Slipped off my pillow. So now we've got two options. They're both good. It'll come down to how you like to do it. You can, and the main reason why it doesn't matter that much is because the linear aspect of it takes care of a certain amount of the momentum we're bringing forward. Just this bringing it back, bringing it forward, or leaning back and then coming through. But the big part is the second part, which is the rotational force that happens when we twist the torsion of our backswing that is locked up against our hips here that we've talked about. And when we come through into this, the position of hand to the right pec, there's a twisting motion that happens there that is, I think it's more powerful than the linear force. So I always want to make sure that when I'm seeing people driving, that the big reason that they're up on the ball of that back foot and coming into the toe and the instep is because then you can create some rotational force on the axis that we've talked a lot about too. So there's the two separate forces, and we have to marry them together. And if one of them is broke, then the other one's probably not going to work. So we got to make sure that each work independently, and then we bring them together. So I want to see, you know, if I'm seeing somebody really working on their form, I want to make sure that their linear is coming in good, but then that they're also able to come in and engage the hips in a way that can load up the upper body. And then, as we've talked about a lot, and I've done some videos on shoulder involvement, is that when you bring this through, you're loading up your arm, your whip. I think the way that is probably the easiest way to think about it is how much you bringing your non-throwing shoulder into play at extension, because you're finding a way to brace against the back half of your body, which is just adding a little more force into it. And that's why you'll see the guys, the big arms, their offhand is usually around here in their pocket. And it's not because there's some magic place for that your hand has to be. It's that they're pulling their chest in, which creates some extra tightness in here that sort of, it's like corking it. It's kind of like corking a little power shot, you know? So it's not necessary if you're not looking for the big distance. You can, and that's one of the other frustrating aspects of throwing, is that how you take heat off a shot every pro does it different. Every top dude takes it off. Some guys will just shorten their reach back and you just see them kind of go. So there's zero reach back. Some guys will just still do this and just throw it a little softer. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's what you feel comfortable with. But if you're really looking to try to add some little extra pop to it, you know, bringing the shoulder through, keeping it tight. My hand usually ends up about out here. And when I try to bring it tighter, usually what happens is it throws something off. But hopefully that explains how to feel the hips. The little hip bump slide, all of this stuff, it is, I know it's torture, I know it's hard, there's not an easy way to explain it, other than, you know, you got to end up into this position where you've got your head, you know, over your spine, over your disc, which is over your knee. Try not to throw a shot all the way through my house through a back window. See you guys later.